Did you think we were going to be gone forever? Well, we're back. That's right, Static Screen is coming right back at you once again in kind of a new format, folks. So thank you for joining us here today. And I am Lord X. You already know that. You're on my channel, of course. And joining me for this, well, first kind of episode of Static Screen since our return, it's the one, the only, Israel Pacheco.
Man, it's been a while. It's been a long time. I know the last episode you did with James was
back in January. Yeah,
we did right, and then the last episode I was on was even way before that. So yeah, it's good to be back, especially now with all these movies coming out, all these TV series coming out. There's a lot to discuss. There's so many trailers and stuff. So I'm excited to talk about what we're going to talk about today.
Indeed. So yeah, it's a different format. We're going to keep things a lot more simpler on this show. And as for ECW James, well, he still could return. We still could do normal episodes, me and him. But in the meantime, myself and Izzy, we're just going to dive into one or two topics here on the show. Reflect back on either a TV series that we've been watching, a movie we've been watching, or quite possibly even like if a big trailer comes out for like Jurassic World 2, we'll dive into that.
Oh, you know I'm going to talk about that.
But yeah, as you can see from the title of today's episode, we are going to dive into 10 Cloverfield Lane, and we're going to talk a little bit, well, probably quite a lot, about Daredevil Season 2. But first, we're going to talk about that movie. That movie that, honestly, pulled a Randy Orton and came out of nowhere, and that's 10 Cloverfield Lane. Izzy, what were your overall thoughts on 10 Cloverfield Lane?
This is probably one of the biggest surprises in years for me, right? This movie wasn't announced that long ago, to be honest. It was kind of kept in the dark, especially with all the talk of The Force Awakens and J.J. Abrams directing that. He didn't direct this. He was a producer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
But yeah, and before I talk about the movie itself, I have to say the original Cloverfield, I was never really a fan of. It got me dizzy, to be honest. I remember sitting down with like my dad and the rest of my family to watch it way back when it came out. That was a very long time ago, and I couldn't get through it. I watched maybe 10 to 20 minutes of it, and the shaky camera, because of course that was one of the first movies to really make that popular besides like Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, it was a Godzilla found footage film, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. So the whole found footage genre kind of reignited after that original Cloverfield, and I wasn't personally a fan of it. So going into this, I wanted to check it out because I liked the tone of the trailer and what they were going for, and it seemed really interesting, and it ended up being a hell of a fantastic movie. And I don't know if you want to do these shows where we go into spoilers or...
Yeah, like, let's just say this right now. This episode and future episodes, we'll even say it then, but spoilers galore.
Okay.
So if you haven't not seen 10 Cloverfield Lane, time to pause the video, go out, watch it, and then come back. So we are diving deep into spoiler territory.
I just wanted to make sure, but this movie was fantastic from start to finish. There's not too many people in the cast. It's really just three main characters, to be honest. Howard, who's played by John Goodman, Michelle, who's played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and Emmett, who's played by John Gallagher Jr. They're pretty much the predominant cast members. There's some characters here and there that you see that aren't in the bunker, because that's where the majority of the movie takes place. It's in this fallout shelter, pretty much.
Yeah, let's just talk a little bit about that first, how the story is set up here. We see Michelle, played by Mary Elizabeth, in her home, like, she's running away, essentially. We kind of get learning that she's had a fight with her boyfriend or her fiancé, so she takes to the road. And while she's driving at night, something hits her. We don't know what at the time. She goes off the road, and when she wakes up, she's in this bunker with Howard and Emmett, who we don't see right away.
Yeah, that's pretty much the setup for the movie, and then the majority of it, it's a lot of dialogue and suspense moments. Like, there's not too much in terms of special effects until the end of the film, which I thought was handled really well.
Yeah.
That's what I liked, that it was like more of a character piece, and it kept you on your toes because you didn't know where these people were necessarily coming from, especially John Goodman's character, who he was just like a psychopath in this movie.
Yeah. But at the same time, like, there are moments where you kind of get the feeling that he is just like an honest person who's maybe suffering just from some anger issues.
Yeah, it could be. It kind of reminded me of Vincent D'Onofrio's take on Wilson Fisk. Like, there's times where he's like crazy, but there's times that you relate to him. Like, that's how John Goodman's character in this movie was, and that's what I mean by keeping you on your toes, because you're never sure his motivations. You're never sure where he's coming from. You're never sure if he's lying to you or not, if he's being honest. Even with Emmett's character, at first you're really not sure, like, is he in it with Howard to, like, basically kidnap you? Are they making all this up about what has happened outside? And eventually you find out that no, once there's that scene where they see the lady outside who her skin's like deteriorating, and she's trying to get into the fallout shelter and banging on the door. And Michelle's about to let her in, but then she stops once she sees like her face, and she realizes, oh, something is going on. But as the movie progresses, you find out that it isn't necessarily a fallout, like a nuclear fallout, because it's really these alien creatures who are sending out this like dense mist into any humans they come in contact with. So the air is not toxic unless you run into one of the alien ships and they throw out this mist at you, and that's what causes the skin to deteriorate and all that, and you to eventually die. But I was just really impressed with, like, it's been a while since I've seen John Goodman in a movie, and this movie he just did a fantastic job from top to bottom. Like,
yeah, he kills it in this movie. He is just so damn good. This is like, it won't happen, but this is like Oscar award winning performance right here. Like, yeah.
He did a really good job, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, she did a real good job too. I haven't seen her in a movie in a while. Last one I saw was Scott Pilgrim versus the World, but like, this is definitely a different tone of a film, but it's just really interesting, that like the character dynamics, and it makes you think of like, what if there was a situation like this, like nuclear fallout, we'd all be screwed. It just got me thinking that. I'm in the movie theater thinking about that when they're like, playing like Monopoly or making puzzles and watching movies on VHS and DVD. It's like, what if everything just stopped? Like, everything around you, like there's a fallout, and you're never gonna get any new movies, any new music, any new games. Like, it just put me in like a different space, and it got me thinking about that. But like, I could understand some of those people, the doomsday preppers, as they call them. Like John Goodman's character in this.
At the end, you kind of feel bad for him, because he was right. He was just being prepared, and Michelle, kind of fucked it up on him.
But yeah, he does some crazy stuff in the movie. Like, I know they never truly get to the bottom of this, but of that like teenage girl who goes missing, and then he shows a picture to Michelle and
claims it's his daughter.
And claims it's his daughter. Then Emmett sees the picture and it's not his daughter, and they start wondering. And then she finds the earring in that section of the shelter that's near the air ventilation system. So they kind of think that he killed her, and it seems that way, especially when, spoilers, he kills Emmett like point blank range with a gun. Like that was pretty crazy. Like he just points and shoots.
Yeah, that was another one of those legit scary moments.
Does not give a damn, and then he gets the I forgot what was the toxic chemicals that he had in that.
Basically the Breaking Bad barrels of toxin.
Yeah, pretty much. And then he begins to break him apart and then put him in there. So he could have done the same thing to this teenage girl. So like you never were sure, but then by this point in the movie you're like, okay, this guy is crazy. He definitely has some issues. So you wanted to see Michelle finally escape and see what's out there, and she slowly starts to build like some sort of hazmat like suit, pretty much with a mask and stuff, with things that are available in the fallout shelter. But then eventually you get out of there, and the fallout shelter blows up, and then that triggers the attention of that alien ship, and then they let out that creature that goes through the like cornfields, and starts to try to investigate what caused the explosion. That was a really creepy creature that they created for this. It was so unique. And I never saw the end of Cloverfield, so I can't say if this is in line with like the creatures that were in that movie.
No.
This is just completely different.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it was really cool how the tone of the movie completely switched. It started to become more action for like the last like 15-20 minutes or whatever that was of her trying to deal with this creature.
Yeah.
And it was just really interesting how it switched like tones, but it still made sense within the context of the film.
Yeah, exactly. And there was one moment there at the end that I really appreciated. That's when she climbs up on top of the truck and takes a look out at the spaceship, and it turns and starts coming towards her, and she's like, oh, for fuck's sake. Like, he was right, right?
Yeah.
Like, that one little moment, she's like, oh, I just fucked everything up.
Yeah.
So,
but it was cool, and then, like, you got glimpses of her, like, after I saw this movie, I was thinking of her, like, as a sci-fi, like, action, film protagonist, like, just one, like, her name, Sigourney Weaver was,
Ridley.
back in the day, and Ridley in the Alien franchise, played by Sigourney Weaver. But I thought it'd be interesting to see her like do more roles like this, because, like I said, I hadn't seen her in many other movies. The only other one was Scott Pilgrim. I know she's been in other stuff within the last few years since that movie, but like I'd like to see more of her, especially when you see the range she has as an actress, going from something that's more comedic in Scott Pilgrim to something like this that's more, suspense and sci-fi towards the end of the film. But I thought it was really well done. I know we had this discussion of whether they're going to do a direct sequel, but you were telling me that the way they're treating the Cloverfield universe is more like each film's going to be its own thing. It's not going to necessarily be directly connected to the previous films. Yeah. Which I think it's cool. You were comparing it to like the Twilight Zone. Like each episode's like within the Twilight Zone universe, but it's its own thing. But yeah, definitely. If you're listening to us spoil this, like you've watched it, but definitely one of the biggest surprises of the year. It'll probably be within my top 5 movies of the year as we go throughout the year. Deadpool's on it so far. This is definitely on it.
I'm sure Batman v Superman's gonna be on it for you.
Not according to all these crappy reviews that are coming out. I canceled my damn tickets that I got through Fandango. Got a refund for them, but yeah. So overall, what were your thoughts on the movie?
I absolutely loved it. Unlike yourself, I love the first Cloverfield movie. It's one of my favorite quote unquote monster movies. I don't hate it like a lot of people do, but 10 Cloverfield Lane, like, I went into this expecting something really good, and what I got was something really, really great. I love the characters. I love the acting performances. I thought they were fantastic. the tone and film direction of making the movie I thought was really, really good. How you slowly see different parts of the bunker, and just like over the course of the movie you actually learn the layout of it and how it's possible for her to escape at the very end of it. I thought that was really clever. There were some really intense, scary moments. John Goodman, like, I have seen... There's scary things in movies. You could say, like, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, the alien from Alien, like, scary things. John Goodman's character in this movie was, like, legit scary. Like, oh, this is a kind of person that could exist and somebody I could run into. Yeah. And maybe I know people with similar kind of traits as this character, which makes it even that much scarier. So, yeah, love the characters in the film. Just overall, I absolutely loved this movie. It was so good, so suspenseful, and I loved how it took so many different turns. Like, at the beginning, you think, yeah, this guy's crazy, he just got her captured, he's lying outside, then you mention the scene with the woman, and it's like, oh, maybe he is telling the truth. And then later when she finds that earring and the help scratched onto the inside of the bunker window, it's like, maybe he is lying after all. And then when she goes outside and it's like, oh, he was right all along, and his extremely crazy theory about the Martians was actually the truest one. Which was really funny and just really well done. So yeah, overall, love this movie. Like yourself, it's going to be up there as one of my top movies of the year, along with Deadpool and most likely Captain America and Doctor Strange. Right now, it's probably the one movie that's not a comic book movie that's going to be in like my top movies of the year.
Yeah, it's definitely on there for me. I haven't seen too many films this year so far because we're only 3 months, but we're gonna get into like the busy season pretty soon. Well, this weekend, starting with Batman v Superman, leading into like the summer. But overall, definitely a great movie. I'll be picking this up when it comes out on Blu-ray.
Same here. All right then. Well, that does it for 10 Cloverfield Lane, I guess. Well, we need a rating system here on
why not?
on a static screen. We'll think of one for ourselves in the future. Right now, let's take a page out of the guys over on the Weekly Planet podcast, the official podcast of comicbookmovie.com, where either we give it a rating of best movie ever, worst movie ever, or just a movie. What would you give this?
I'd say best movie ever, to be honest, because it was a surprise. It was a refreshing take on like sci-fi and suspense movies.
I agree with you. Best movie ever from myself as well. We'll think of something our own in the future, folks. Yeah. But with that out of the way, that talked about, it's time to dive into the second part of this show, and that is, of course, talking about Daredevil Season 2. And oh my god, Marvel cannot do anything wrong.
Yeah, it's starting to piss me off, to be honest. As a fan of Batman, and some other of the DC properties, and just Marvel's got it right. Like, they know what they're doing. Yep. They're giving us this more grittier take within the Marvel universe in their TV series, like Jessica Jones and Daredevil, Luke Cage coming soon. But I didn't think they could top the first season, and in my opinion, they did. To me, to be honest, I had wrote on Twitter, I had mixed emotions, but it was because of the last episode. Felt a little rushed in the way it was handled. Like, it felt like so many things were condensed into one episode. Yeah. Whereas, the rest of the season was, drawn out. Yeah. But overall, the season was fantastic.
Yeah. I think compared to season 1, it's not as drawn out. There's action... Well, not necessarily just action, but everything kept moving at a really good pace, I thought, here in season 2. let's break this up a little bit. Let's talk about the first 4 episodes, which is essentially the Punisher story starting off. So, first and foremost, how do you think they handled the Punisher? I have my own thoughts, but I want to hear from you first.
I'm familiar with the Punisher character from his, relations with like Spider-Man and other things, and like cartoons I saw when growing up. Mm-hmm. I've seen like the other Punisher movies that have come out, so I know some about the character. I thought it was really well done, how they handled it, and in my opinion. And it's funny you brought up the first 4 episodes, because the 4th episode, that's the one where Daredevil has that conversation with the Punisher, right? And they're in the cemetery, right? That episode broke me. Like, which is weird, because out of all these comic book movies, there's never been one where I've legit like got into tears, and his whole dialogue, like John Bernthal fucking killed this role. Like, he did an amazing job. And just the way he was describing that whole scenario of him coming home from war and going to school to surprise his daughter, and that whole, like, it was so well written, like, and the way he delivered it, and just like the little things he said, like just the nuances and like his, like his eyes and his facials, like, it was incredible. Like, it brought me to tears, and there hasn't been anything comic book related, in terms of like a live action adaptation or a cartoon series or anything that's ever brought me to tears, and this brought me to tears, like, and I don't know if it was just me at the moment. I was like in a, kind of, I don't know, gloomy kind of mood or what the hell was going on, but it broke me. It brought me to tears, and I'm like, damn, this was incredible. Just the whole dialogue between the characters, and I thought it was handled super well. Towards the end, it kind of felt rushed for me, the whole stuff that happened at the end, and especially with like the Punisher's character. That's why the last episode felt a little like everything was crammed in too much, like the last episode or so. But in terms of the setup that they did for the Punisher, like, it was fantastic.
For myself, for those that don't know, the Punisher is my favorite comic book character of all time. Like, I adore that character. I love him to death. As far as like the past movies go, I barely remember the Dolph Lundgren one. The Thomas Jane one was okay, but the backstory of just his wife and son and that, I didn't really like it that much. The guy had the look, but it didn't feel like the Punisher to me. Punisher Warzone, I love that movie. I thought that was going to be the closest rendition of the Punisher that we would ever get. But my God, like, watching this was the Punisher. Like, you mentioned tearing up there in episode 4 with that scene, and I did as well. I teared up a few times throughout the course of this season just because of a few things with the Punisher. Things that normal people shouldn't really cry over, but I was seeing like a character I love finally get the treatment he deserved. There was that part in episode 3 where they're up on the roof. He has Daredevil chained up, and they're going back and forth in a conversation. And, well, he knocks out Daredevil at one point. When Daredevil wakes up, he's got the gun tied into his hand. And that scene is, like, my favorite Punisher scene in the comics ever, where Frank has Matt tied up, and he's about to go kill this gangster, and he gives Daredevil the choice of, kill me now so I don't go kill this guy, like, because you don't want anybody dead. And Daredevil, like, says, like, what kind of choice is that? And Frank replied in the comics, as he did in the show, like, word for word, that's the choice I make every time I pull the trigger. Showing that, he's not necessarily just out on a rampage. He's not, like, killing because he loves killing. He's doing it. He's stepping... He's stepping across the line simply because he's taking it upon himself. He's going to put the guilt on his own shoulders to do what needs to be done so that nobody else has to do it, and that nobody else has to suffer from what might happen if he doesn't do it. Like, that's why I love the Punisher. Like, he is a force of nature doing what needs to be done, regardless of his own well-being or his own morals, per se. And throughout the season, we kind of see that, where you see those conversations he has with Karen, where he's kind of giving her good advice overall. Like, yes, you should be doing this, or, you shouldn't really think that my methods are good. And you probably think in the moment, like, oh, he's kind of changing. And then he goes, you better go into the kitchen, hide with the chef and the waitress. And she's like, why? There's a few guys coming into the diner now who aren't going to leave anymore. And he has that brutal assault with them. There's a scene in the prison we'll get to in a bit. And later on, where he's talking with Matt, Daredevil, on the boat. And Daredevil's like, maybe this one time we do it your way. We go and kill this guy. And Frank's like, doesn't work that way, Red. You step across the line like me, there's no going back. And what does he proceed to do at that point? He throws Daredevil off the boat so that he does not cross the line. He saves Daredevil from killing somebody, essentially. Which I thought was fantastic. Like, he respects Daredevil, so he's, like, going to go kill so that, like, the real heroes don't have to. Which I think they nailed in this series, like, the approach of the Punisher. Like, so spot on.
Yeah, it was fantastic from start to finish. Like, they did, like, a really good job. And I was excited to see John play the role because I really like his performance in The Walking Dead as Shane. I wanted to see what he would do with this character, and it's made me more interested in like the Punisher as a character, because I've always been aware of the character, like I said, but I've never like delved into the comics or more of his backstory, things like that. But it's awesome, like what they did. It's really, really impressive what they're doing with these TV series. And another one of the characters that was going into this, I didn't care. Like, at least the Punisher, I knew the Punisher, and I was like, okay, I'm looking forward to that. I want to see his take on the Punisher. But Elektra, like, she might be like my favorite like female character in any of comics. Like, I don't know if you liked her performance as much, but Elodie Young's performance as Elektra was like, I really liked her, the dynamic between her and Matt Murdock, and like their whole backstory and how like their whole relationship is like so conflicted and convoluted, and how she's so convoluted herself as a character. Like they mix the whole like, sexiness but violent and ruthless. Like, I don't know, what do you think of the portrayal of Elektra in the series?
I thought it was good, but ultimately I thought it could have been much better. If I'm going to be honest, she was probably the weakest aspect of this season, in my opinion. But compared to what we've gotten before in live action, much, much better. But
yeah, going into the season for a character that like I wasn't really interested in seeing, it like turned me around on the character. Now I kind of want to read more of the backstory of the Elektra character in the actual comics. Maybe it's also because like she reminds me of this friend I had like back in the day, that like the resemblance is kind of shocking. So maybe that's why I like it so much. I don't know. But yeah, I really liked that performance. Like, because it gave me something different. That going into it, I wasn't expecting to be like, oh, I really liked Elektra. Like, That's just my take on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, over the course of the season, the first 4 episodes were dealing with the Punisher. He gets arrested at the end of episode 4, sorry. And then we go into the storyline of Elektra showing up, the Hand getting involved. And while that's going on, we do have the trial of the Punisher. And I think that was really well handled as well. As we see Frank, kind of embrace a little bit more of the Punisher aspect of himself. Calling off the jury and the district attorney and whatnot. And then we find out that, he'd been kind of threatened a little bit, and somebody had an offer for him. And who had that offer for him, Izzy?
Mr. Wilson Fisk, a.k.a. Vincent D'Onofrio.
That was such a great surprise in the season.
Yeah.
No idea whatsoever that he was going to be showing up. They snuck him in there for 3 episodes, and those 3 episodes and the small little sections that we get with Kingpin were extraordinary. First, we get that reveal of him with Frank Castle. Second episode, we find out what was going on when he first showed up in prison, and how he's essentially taken over the prison and is now pulling strings from the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like you said, I wasn't expecting him to be in this season for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they would give him, a season off, especially since they were focusing on the Punisher so much. But yeah, like you said, it was fantastic, especially those episodes. Those episodes were brutal in terms of the violence. With Frank Castle, the Punisher, that scene in the prison where
everybody
they lock
gets
him
their own
in.
hallway. See,
they lock him in, and they leave everybody out of their cell after he attacks basically the Kingpin's rival in jail, trying to find out who was behind the shooting that took place at the carousel that day.
Yeah.
And then he just takes everybody out. He just stabs everybody, cuts people. They ramped up the violence this season. I remember one of the scenes where, and I can't believe they showed it, he's got a shotgun and he shoots somebody in the face, and you see that the face just gets deformed. I was like, they're pulling this off. This is crazy. How violent this is. It's really, really violent. But it, like you said, it's done well though. The complexity of the Punisher character, and I loved all those court scenes. The only issue I had that I thought was kind of weird, because I was thinking in a grounded world, why would this happen, was some of the people that were in the crowd in the court had signs up that said I don't know, hang the Punisher or whatever, anti-Punisher, pro-Punisher signs. I was like, okay, that's a little cheesy. That's not going to happen in a real courtroom. I thought they could have left that out. Maybe that was a reference to the comics.
Possibly,
I don't know. But that kind of took me out of the experience. But all the stuff that he said on the stand, when he stands up and he just goes off, he's like, yeah, I am the Punisher. I'm crazy. And
what do you call me? The Punisher? Yeah, I'm the fucking Punisher.
And he just goes off, and the whole dynamics of Foggy, Matt, and Karen's relationship during the trial, and them trying to get the Punisher out of the situation that he's in, yet Matt keeps messing up and going missing because he's doing stuff with Elektra, and that whole dynamic between all the characters, was really well done. Because you're come on, just tell Karen already, you're freaking Daredevil. Which he eventually does at the end of the season. He pulls out the mask, and she's like, oh. And then you're like, okay. Finally, going into season 3. Yeah. But, it was really good. I watched it. It was over about 3-day period or so. I wanted to watch it all, but I had work all those 3 days, unfortunately. But Yeah, I went through it pretty quick, and I really enjoyed it. Like even when they got into the more like mystical stuff with like the hand and people being
resurrected
from death, and like that was kind of out there, especially for something like this, which is more like magic, and we haven't really seen that in the Marvel universe as yet. You know what's funny, that the hand, like all the ninjas that they had, it kind of reminded me of the Foot Clan. I was like,
hey, the Foot Clan ripped off the hand.
Yeah,
the comics, so
which is freaking hilarious, because when I was watching this, that's what I was thinking about. But of course, the original Ninja Turtles were like a parody on like the Dark Knight and the Punisher and those like ultra violent takes on the characters. So
yeah,
I don't know, I guess it kind of went full circle. But it was just interesting how they pulled that off, because at first I to be honest, I kind of cringed. I'm like, oh, does this really fit within this world? But by like a few episodes in, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Like it fits within this Marvel universe that they're trying to create.
Yeah, it's diving us into the other corners of the MCU that we really haven't seen yet, and we really won't see until this coming November when Doctor Strange comes out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was great too. Like the involvement of the hand was excellently done. Nobu being back and essentially being the main villain for this season, I think was really well handled. Really great contrast to our other three main characters this season. Stick being back was awesome, and we got a lot more of him, which I thought was great. That actor is so damn good in that role.
Yeah, that... Oh my god, Stick is ridiculous. That was another thing in like the last episode, where they're having like this climactic fight with Nobu, and Nobu gets thrown off the roof, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, he wakes up, and then Stick comes and just chops his head off.
Yeah.
It kind of, I'm like, really?
And
that
this
quick?
time,
Like,
stay down.
Yeah, I was like, really? Come on, guys, we could have done it like some other way, because that was kind of a cheap death. That's what kind of took me out.
I thought
of
it was
but
great, though.
I thought it was funny, but it just kind of, I was like, oh, come on, guys. And then, of course,
the other part of that is, you said he getting thrown off the roof. Daredevil did that. So in that moment, is Matt thinking he essentially killed somebody here? Yeah,
that's true. That's true, because it seemed like, but maybe he knows like Nobu's that type of character that could regenerate essentially.
Possibly, yeah.
But then, and of course, they do the thing with that you see coming a mile away, where Elektra gets killed, but no, she's not really dead. Like, like
this is probably going to be building up towards the Defenders, I'm assuming.
Yeah, because that was only one of the few low points in the series for me. Like, after all this character development between like Elektra and Matt, like, when you get to that scene when she gets killed, like, it didn't do anything for me. I don't know why.
It did for me, for the simple fact of the scene that we got before they went up onto the roof, where Matt is talking to her and saying about, when we get out of this, we'll run away together. I'll be with you. Yeah. And he means it in that moment. Like, this will happen if they get out of this alive. And her death, even though, yes, it's foreshadowed to hell, and you can see it coming a mile away, I think is still effective because of that scene before they go up onto the roof.
I did like the scene. I just mean, like, when it actually happened, I was like, okay, she's going to be back. Like, the hand has the capability to bring people back from death. Like, when it happened, I'm like, and then at the end of the series, you know, there's a whole funeral scene, and then at the end you see that there's a hole where she was buried, and the hand has her in that chamber.
And she's kind of dressed in her actual comic book costume.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see where they go from here moving into season 3. Luke Cage comes out before season 3, right?
Yes. They haven't
So
even confirmed season 3 of Daredevil yet.
So that's a given. So it'll be Luke Cage next. I did like the references to Jessica Jones though, and then they also had the attorney who spoke to Foggy in that situation that they had with where they were breaking up their law firm pretty much, and they were gonna go their separate ways, and it was cool. Like, there was a lot of character development, a lot of interesting dynamics between all the different characters in the season, which keeps the story grounded in a way. But yeah, overall, like I said, the only low points were maybe the last episode felt a little rushed, and then the electric death scene for me. But everything else was pretty damn good.
One last thing about the final episode, or the final 2 anyway, going into it. The end of the Punisher's story, where it's revealed that it was his commanding officer who was the blacksmith. I thought that was really cool, and especially where Frank finds that wall of weapons, holy shit, and the body armor. And then in the final episode, we see him returning to his home for the very first time since the murder of his family happened. I thought that was handled really well. He smashes the picture and there's a disc with Micro written onto it. That was a little geekish moment for myself.
I didn't get it because I don't follow the comics, so enlighten me on what that is.
Micro in the comics was basically Frank Castle's partner, assistant. He was the guy who made all the weapons for Frank and such.
Okay.
You saw the Warzone movie, right?
Yeah.
Remember his partner in that? The one who gave him the weapons? Played by Newman from Seinfeld?
Oh, yeah.
He was Micro.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, I haven't seen the movie in a while, so it's...
Yeah. So, yeah, that was a reference to Micro, who has been mentioned on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. before, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, that was great. I loved where right at the end, we see him burning down his home. And I loved how he popped up in the end of that firefight. Popped off a few heads of the hand and looked at Daredevil and just said, "See you around, Red," and walked off into the night carrying a minigun.
Yeah, with his vest.
Yep.
That now has his logo.
That was so good. That was another tear moment for me where it's like...
Yeah.
Not... Like, I would have loved to see that earlier, but it just felt more earned and more naturally given to him in this one.
Yeah, because he got to that point after he was in like the like his shed, and he's looking at the X-rays, and then he starts with the spray paint, puts that on his vest. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, so yeah, really well done. And like you said, I thought the season was excellent. The only slow points I would say for myself were a little bit on the character of Elektra. She wasn't as great as she could have been. And other than that, maybe Foggy a little bit. I still, like, he's great, don't get me wrong, but not as good, or they didn't do as good with him, I think, than what they could have done. But overall, yeah, fucking love this season, and all I want now is a standalone Punisher series. Like, please give that to us. John Bernthal has earned his own series after this.
Yeah, well, I'll see we'll see what happens.
If not, hopefully he'll show back up for the Defenders. Just pop him in there somewhere. So yeah.
So that's pretty much it, I guess, for the show. We got nothing else to talk about.
Yeah.
We're pretty much on the eve of Batman v Superman. Like I said, I canceled my tickets, got a refund. You're still going, I know. So maybe in the next episode we'll still discuss, I guess, your point of view on the film. I already have a point of view from all the spoilers that I've read and and seen people discuss on YouTube. But yeah, we'll see what you think, and I'm sure there'll be something else by next week besides Batman v Superman. Marvel's not gonna let DC get away with all the attention.
Yeah, there's a lot coming, as you said. We got Civil War coming up, Suicide Squad, X-Men. Fuck, WrestleMania's right around the corner. I'm sure we can do an episode on that.
True.
So yeah, there's plenty to talk about. So before we finally wrap up here, outside of Daredevil and 10 Cloverfield Lane, do you have any other TV or movie recommendations for the folks out there? If you could pull one thing out right now and say.
Yeah, I can't think of anything, to be honest. I haven't been watching too much TV besides the Daredevil show, to be honest. The last movie I saw was 10 Cloverfield Lane, so I don't know. I got nothing this week.
All right. Well, my one recommendation would be Zootopia. Go see Zootopia. It's one of Disney's best movies in years, in my opinion. It's really, really good.
All right.
So with that, Izzy, why don't you take us away? Let's change the channel.
So yeah, change the channel, shut off the TV, go to sleep. I don't know. But thanks, guys, for checking out this show. It's been a while since I've been on. Hopefully, we'll be doing this more consistently moving forward. Let us know in the comment section down below your thoughts on the new format. Do you like that we go into spoilers? Do you not like that? I just want some feedback on that, even though I do want to go into spoilers because the discussion, kind of...
And I want to point out one other thing as well. Don't expect this to go up as regularly as like the Glitched Out Gaming podcast does.
Yeah.
Like this could just pop up Wednesday one week, Friday another week, Sunday the week after. It just depends on when stuff comes out and when we see it. You might even go 2 weeks without an episode of Static Screen.
Yeah, which I wouldn't doubt, especially with like movie releases and stuff being spread out. Well, I think it'll be pretty packed for the next few months at least, moving into the summer movie season.
And hell, we may do an episode just on like a movie trailer. You might get a 15-minute episode like that.
Oh yeah, who knows? But yeah, for Lord X, I'm Izzy, aka Israel Pacheco 89, and I was about to say we're glitching out, but I don't know what. I don't know. Change the channel. The Wyatt show up.
Bye, everybody.